Welcome back to the second day of the 2024 Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival as we come to you live, once again, from outside the Endler Concert Hall in Stellenbosch, South Africa. The sun has been out today, drenching everything in winter warmth and giving us a chance to catch our breath after last night's outstanding faculty concert, which had the audience on their feet on several occasions. In case you missed that program of George Walker, Beethoven's Fourth Piano Concerto and the Chamber Guys, Mahler and Caroline Shaw, you can revisit it on the Sicmf website or on YouTube. And we'll be sprinkling this live stream with a few clips from last night just to whet your appetite for the second faculty concert, which begins in a few minutes at 8 o'clock local time. So let's jump into one of those clips right away to give you a sense of what we mean by chamber music magic here at the Sicmf. Here's the well-known Rondo third movement from the Fourth Piano Concerto by Beethoven with Emanuel Ivanov as soloist. From last night's faculty concert, the first faculty concert here at the 2024 Sicmf, that was the third movement you may have recognized from Beethoven's Fourth Piano Concerto, played by faculty pianist Emanuel Ivanov. And incidentally, the young Bulgarian-born pianist will be my guest in our interval interview later this evening. So it's been another very full day here at the Sicmf, not least that decisive victory the Springboks have just scored over the Irish, with a guest ensemble concert at 1 p.m. featuring the Youth Orchestras of Namibia String Ensemble, playing works by Schubert, Mozart and Haydn, amongst others. And then at 3 p.m, violin faculty artist Madeleine Adkins hosted a masterclass for other aspiring young violinists. At 5 o'clock, there was another guest ensemble concert with the Brazilian group Illumina, and we've just emerged from one of our intimate interviews in conversation with between two violinists and Sicmf faculty regulars, Madeleine Adkins and Nicolas Dautricourt. So to give you a sense of what's going on here in the rest of the conserve this evening, let's cross now to Courtney. Courtney, thanks for joining us. It's nice to have you here on our live stream.
Good evening, everyone. This is the 19th Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. And as you can see, the energy is buzzing. The crowd is gathering for the second faculty concert tonight. And I'm joined by Sicmf Tetwa. How can you tell us about your experience so far? Because it's only early days.
Yes, very early days. I can't really say much, but I can definitely say that a lot has happened today. Orchestra rehearsal started today, which was very interesting. Very beautiful, colorful music that we're playing this year, so I'm very excited about that. And the concerts were really amazing. Seeing the guest ensembles, they were just really just show-stopping. And I just felt like my energy was really rejuvenated by watching them. And I'm very excited about the faculty concert, so yeah.
Okay. And speaking about concerts, which one are you looking most forward to this week?
Tonight's concert, I must say. They're playing one of my favorite flute pieces, Schubert's Variations on Trockene Blumen, and it's just such a beautiful piece, and I'm very excited to hear it in a chamber setting, because usually I hear it with flute and piano. So yeah, I'm very excited for that, and also to hear Golijov, I think that's the composer's surname. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. But I remember hearing one of his pieces at Chamberfest 2 years ago for the first time, and it really touched my heart. So I'm really excited to hear another piece by him.
Thank you so much, Esihle. Esihle will be performing with the FSO on Friday evening and Sunday evening, so be sure to come check her out with them. And be sure to tune into the rest of the show. Hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thanks so much, Courtney. And really cool to hear the student participant perspectives as well, and the music they're looking forward to and what this means to them. And great to hear that it's such an energizing experience. So please don't forget to use the hashtag Sicmf 2024 on social media. We really enjoy and appreciate reading your comments on YouTube and on Facebook. So thank you. The second faculty concert begins in just a few minutes at 8 o'clock, and there are 4 works on the program this evening, tracing a path from early Romanticism all the way to the present. And it begins with the music of Schubert, as we just heard there from that young musician. Faculty flutist Ekaterina Kornishina will be the soloist in the variations on Trockene Blumen, which Schubert used in his famous song cycle Die Schöne Müllerin. And that will be followed by a suite for violin and orchestra by the English-born composer Frederick Delius, with Nicolas Dautricourt soloist. After the interval, we move then to the music of Argentinian composer Osvaldo Golijov, who's known for his unique fusion of classical, Latin American, Jewish musical traditions. And that will be the South African premiere of that work, inspired by the words that Vincent van Gogh used to close letters to his brother Theo, "Ever yours." Sounds very poignant. And finally, we end with what sounds like a showy toccata for piano, string quartet and double bass by the Finnish composer Olli Mustonen. And so, to set the scene for tonight's faculty concert, here's another highlight from last night's opening concert, the opening of the Adagietto, the 4th movement of Mahler's 5th Symphony, led by Daniel Rowland. we all keep bringing them. And welcome back. We're inside the hall, a hall that's just starting to fill up for the second faculty concert this evening. As I mentioned, starting with music by Schubert, and then on to Delius, and then after the interval, Osvaldo Golijov and Oli Mustonen. So really tracing that path from early Romanticism all the way to the 21st century. As I mentioned, it's been a very full day here at the Sicmf, lots going on, and then of course we had that important rugby match just a couple of hours ago. So I think that was a nice break from the music and has brought everyone focused and with a fresh energy to this concert tonight. Perhaps I can tell you a little bit about the first piece we're going to be hearing by Schubert. He composed these variations on Trockene Blumen, D802, in 1824. So there's another appropriate anniversary to be celebrating, 200 years since the composition of that work. The original work is a set of variations for flute and piano based on material from the song of the same name that featured in the song cycle Die Schöne Müllerin. And as the student participant whom we heard Courtney interviewing a few minutes ago mentioned, what's exciting is now hearing this work with strings and not just the piano accompaniment that one usually hears. The use of melodic material from songs as the basis of not only variations but also large-scale chamber works was a common practice for Schubert. The most famous instances probably being the Trout Quintet in A major, drawing from his song De Forel, you probably know that, and also his string quartet number 14, the famous Death and the Maiden Quartet. The variations on Trockene Blumen that we hear tonight consist of an introduction which states the theme, and then 7 variations, and is notable for making considerable demands not only on the flautist or the flutist, but on the accompanist as well. And this evening the work is presented in a version for flute with string quintet, and the title of the original poem, published by Wilhelm Müller in 1821, translates to Withered Flowers. And the text deals with a miller sadly contemplating a bunch of withering flowers, symbolic not only of his lost love, but also, in typical romantic fashion, his sense of mortality. So hopefully not too bleak an atmosphere tonight. We'll be listening to Ekaterina Kornishina, she'll be the flutist in this performance, along with Andrei Barnov, first violin, Anna Vasileva, violin 2, viola, I'll get to you just in a second about that, Boris Adrianov, cello, and Marichenmeyer, double bass. I believe we have Maya Egashira as the substitute violist this evening, although one's never quite sure. Sometimes musicians need to stand in for one another, and so it's really only when they come onto the stage that we can be exactly sure who they are and who will be taking which instrument this evening. So I'll keep you posted about that. Last night's first faculty concert was very much a string-heavy concert, and so it'll be good to hear the winds for almost the first time in this Sicmf, Ekaterina playing the flute, and then in fact I guess it's back to strings because the next work by Delius will be the suite for violin and orchestra with Nicolas Dautricourt as soloist, and then Ever Yours, this Golijov piece inspired by the writings of Van Gogh to his brother. Those are 2 string quartets that play alongside one another. And then we have the piano in the final work this evening, this Toccata for piano, string quartet and double bass by the Finnish composer Oli Mustonen. And we'll hear Nina Schumann as pianist, Emanuel Ivanov is probably taking a bit of a break after all those notes he played in the Beethoven last night. I was nerding out here with my little pocket score. I actually meant to show you on the live stream, but forgot last night, and today put it back in my bookshelf. So it's at home. Maybe I'll bring it tomorrow night, just as evidence that I did have it with me. But it's quite fun because when you're following in a score, you can often appreciate even more what's going on stage, because what one is hearing and seeing looks impressive, but then when one's looking at the score, you realize, gosh, just how many notes there are, or how quickly things are moving, or the movement amongst the parts, or the particular expressions or articulation markings the composer's asking for. Listening with a score really provides that extra level of insight into what's going on the stage. The Endler Hall here at the Stellenbosch Conservatorium is slowly filling up with guests, faculty artists, student participants. I'm sure you're getting the occasional scene from the dressing room as the performers get ready. It's always great to have those banners up on the organ in that Sicmf purple, reminding us that this is the Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival coming to you live, the 19th edition, as we look to the big 20-year anniversary of the Sicmf next year, which would have been last year had it not been for the two Sicmfs we lost because of the pandemic in 2020 and 2021. Of course, there's so much here at the Sicmf for the music participants, the students to get out. There were guest ensemble concerts earlier today. Tomorrow the student ensemble concert starts. So when students sign up for the Sicmf and are accepted, they get divided into chamber music groups where they then work together on chamber music pieces. They will be coached by the faculty artists and then present those as part of the student ensemble concerts. So really giving them that up-close, personal, first-hand experience of not only chamber music making, but chamber music coaching from leaders in their field, from top musicians, the musicians that we're enjoying on stage tonight. In between, there are also public masterclasses, so that's when a faculty artist will lead a session with often 3 students who are chosen, perhaps at different levels of their career. And so that'll be a chance then for the students to get feedback on a one-on-one level with these master teachers, which of course can be invaluable. Things like technique, other aspects of coaching that are not so easy to convey in a group setting or in the usual environment for the students. And so every day we have a public masterclass. The one earlier today was with Madeline Adkins. And then there was another guest ensemble concert at 5 o'clock. And then just before these faculty concerts, we have these really cool conversations between often faculty artists, or it'll be between composers on Monday evening just before the world premiere of the new piece that's especially been commissioned from Peter Bezuidenhout. That typically happens in the 4th faculty concert on the Monday evening. Here at the Sicmf, that'll be with Peter Bezuidenhout on Monday. But earlier this evening, we had Madeline Adkins, Nicola Dautricourt, and I popped in for a little bit of that. I particularly enjoyed. Madeline was asking some probing questions about Nicola, whom we associate with classical music. We see him on the stage. He will be performing for us in just a few minutes later this evening. He also enjoys improvising and playing jazz. And so Madeline was asking how he navigates those two worlds of classical and jazz playing. It's very different when the notes are on the page in front of you compared to when you're having to make them up spontaneously and on the spot. And of course, the jewel in the crown of the Sicmf here are these evening faculty concerts that take place at 8 o'clock, and they're 7 of them, of course, and the last 3, next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, are these student orchestral showcases that happens. The Festival Symphony Orchestra on Friday and Sunday, and then the Festival Concert Orchestra playing on Saturday. And you heard me talk last night, if you tuned into the broadcast, with Mike Repper, our Grammy award-winning conductor who's here leading the symphony orchestra. They had their first rehearsal earlier today, and gosh, they're playing some demanding music. The double concerto by Brahms, the Bartók violin concerto, Borodin's epic symphony number 2. So they really have their work cut out for them over the coming days. And that's over and above these individual masterclasses I was mentioning, these student ensemble coaching sessions, rehearsals, and so on. And so you may be able to see into the rehearsal room that the instrumentalists are tuning up, coming out shortly for this work by Schubert that opens up tonight's faculty concert. The lights dimmed here in the Endler Hall, a great sense of expectation, anticipation, as you heard from our student participant that Courtney interviewed a bit earlier. This is the faculty concert she's most looking forward to, and perhaps understandably there is, and I hope you'll agree, and please do comment on YouTube, on Facebook. Take a selfie of yourself watching the live stream, hashtag Sicmf 2024, to let us know what you're enjoying the most, because we have a great program lined up. Schubert, Delius, Golijov, Mustonen. And here come our instrumentalists this evening, led by Ekaterina Kornishina, flute, together with her string quintet. And they're going to be playing the variations on Trockene Blumen by Franz Schubert. Well, I think theme and variations are probably my most favorite musical form because it's fascinating to hear what the composer can do with essentially a simple melody, the way it can mutate, evolve, change, and it really started off quite sort of bleakly in a way, as we expected, and as I mentioned, this tune originally taken from Schubert's song cycle, Die Schöne Müllerin, thinking about mortality and all those romantic ideas, but then ending as quite a bubbly, buoyant work. And there we heard Ekaterina Kornishova, Sheena, flute, Andrei Baranov, violin 1, Anne Vasileva, violin 2, Maya Egashira, viola, Boris Andreanov, cello, and Morichen Meyer as double bass. And so now you can see the staff rearranging the stage for this next work that we're going to hear, the Suite for Violin and Orchestra. Although this is a slightly different transcription, I'll tell you about that shortly, which is why the piano is now coming onto stage and some rearrangements are happening. So this next work is by Delius, an English-born composer, perhaps one of whom we hear too little, but he's known for cultivating a mature style that blended elements both of Impressionism and late Romanticism, so really with a foot in both of those camps. And tonight you'll have the rare opportunity to listen to some of the composer's early pre-Impressionistic music in the form of the so-called Suite for Violin and Orchestra, but here performed by reduced chamber forces. This is, of course, the Stellenbosch Chamber Music Festival, not the Stellenbosch Orchestral Music Festival, which you might have thought if you'd come to tonight's, or rather last night's concert with the Beethoven and Mahler that were also presented with reduced instrumental forces. The exact details surrounding the composition and initial performances of the suite are a bit murky, but it is possible to build a picture of the circumstances under which the work originated. It was written around 1888 and possibly had a premiere in 1890 in Hanover, and around this time Delius was in Leipzig, soaking up the influence of Grieg and taking violin lessons from the legendary Hans Sitt. Delius had recently returned from the United States, where he'd worked as the manager of an orange farm in Florida. I was fascinated to read that. That was the inspiration for his Florida suite, which was debuted with Sitt on violin. And that suite was also championed by the conductor Sir Thomas Beecham, who also conducted the premiere of this work for either a private performance or a playthrough in 1907. Shortly after the composition of this suite, Delius moved to a village just outside Paris and was exposed to the current of Impressionism that was running through much pre-war French composition, inspiring his mature style. This suite then languished in obscurity and remained undiscovered and unpublished until the 1980s. So it really is a treat to hear tonight Delius' Suite for Violin and Orchestra, but with reduced chamber forces here tonight. And we're going to be hearing Anna Vasileva and Suzanne Martin's violins, Sandy van Dijk, viola, Peter Martin's cello, Nina Schumann piano, and they're coming onto the stage on the far left. There he is. I believe his luggage has just arrived, which is why he has proper performance gear tonight. Nicolas Dautricourt, a festival favorite here at the Sicmf, as the soloist in this work by Delius. Oh, very, very nice. Well, there we hear Delius in a late romantic, pre-impressionistic guise, his suite for violin and orchestra on paper, but with reduced chamber forces, as you can see, the fabulous performance by Nicola Dautrichor, our visiting faculty artist there, and he played together with Anna Vasileva and Suzanne Martens violins, Zandi van Dijk viola, Peter Martens cello, and of course our godmother, our artistic director of this festival, Nina Schumann piano. And once again, the audience here in the Endler Hall, from where we're coming to you live, on their feet and bursting with appreciation. Especially for the piano part, Nina, and perhaps we should give credit to Josh, her page turner, so special shout out to him, and the rest of the string players, and Nicola Dautrichor, our soloist in that work. If indeed you can call him a soloist in a chamber work, I suppose you can. Front and center, the leader, the main role. But of course in chamber music, everyone's important. And there's a wonderful intimacy and team spirit to the piece and to chamber music that makes it so special. Well, there you have it, the first half of the faculty concert number 2. I've just seen my interviewee, Emmanuel Ivanov, walk past me, so let me go and catch him quickly, and I'll see you outside in a minute or two for a chat with him. 5 seconds. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our live stream. And my guest this evening is the young Bulgarian-born pianist Emanuel Ivanov, who's been taking the world and South Africa by storm, and fortunately is no stranger to us here in SA, having given a national tour around the country last year. And I was fortunate to attend your thrilling rendition of the Rhapsody on a theme of Paganini as part of the Rachmaninoff Festival with the Cape Philharmonic Orchestra last year. Emanuel attracted international attention after receiving the first prize at the 2019 Ferruccio Busoni piano competition in Italy, and this achievement has been followed by a string of concert engagements in some of the world's most prestigious halls. So thank you very much for joining us tonight,
Oh, absolutely,
Emanuel.
it's a pleasure.
Your first time at the Sicmf,
Yes.
and playing last night this chamber reduction of the Beethoven Fourth Piano Concerto, a ravishing performance that everyone's been talking about.
Thank you.
You mentioned that you went home and watched it again on the live stream.
Yes. Well, it's always nice to be able to hear what you did in a
Yes.
concert. Usually it doesn't happen straight away, but in this case I had the opportunity. It's always very illuminating, and it makes you discover a lot of things about yourself which you might not be familiar with.
I can imagine, because I guess as a musician, often you're doing one thing and you're not always quite sure or clear how it's
Absolutely.
communicating.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, how did you approach the work last night? Presumably, you've played it with an orchestra before.
Yes, yes.
And how was your approach last night different,
Yeah, first of all,
if at all?
The idea for this chamber version of the fourth concerto came from Nina Schumann, who is sort of one of the engines behind the festival. And it came as a surprise to me, because Chamber Festival, I expected it to be focused on mainly inherently chamber works. But this was sort of a pleasant surprise, because it's an experiment, which I love experiments, and it was interesting to do. I think I've done once a classical concerto with a quartet. Ages ago, it was a Mozart concerto, but with the Beethoven concertos, it's a bit more complicated, because they are inherently symphonic works.
Yes.
And not so much concerto in terms of soloist, orchestra, and the soloist does his thing and the orchestra just accompanies, as was the case before that. Beethoven integrated the piano part into the orchestral texture and created almost symphonies, especially the fourth and fifth piano concerto, symphonies with the piano. But I was surprised to find out that in this chamber version, the concerto actually works wonderfully. And of course, one of the challenges is that, I would say the main challenge is that the balance is completely different. The balances are completely different. You have to think in a different way, you have to listen in a different way, and you have to tone down many things.
Yes.
Because obviously a full orchestra has a lot more volume to the sound, and
I mean, even those opening bars,
Yeah.
when you introduced the work, do you think you executed them differently last night from how you would if you were setting the scene for an orchestral performance of the work?
yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know about the opening, but probably there is something. Yeah.
Yes. But you definitely felt a kind of intimacy, a camaraderie in the music making that is perhaps absent in a symphonic performance of the work.
Yes, of course, and we had this interesting discussion whether to put the piano in front,
Right.
as in a standard concerto setting.
Concerto, indeed.
But then I thought that the setting is chamber, and the feeling is of a chamber musicianship,
Yes.
of a more intimate music making. So ultimately, I think the choice of putting it behind, as you would in a piano quintet, for example, was the right one to make. Yeah.
Indeed. And as we've just seen, in fact, for the Delius now as
Yes.
well, the same kind of setting.
Yeah.
You mentioned in an interview when you were here last year how important symphonic music has been to your musical development, and in particular the music of Mahler.
Yeah.
And of course it was interesting that your concerto last night, or chamber concerto, was followed by Mahler,
Yes.
albeit again in a sort of pared down,
Yes.
almost chamber orchestral style. Did you think that worked well for that adagietto? last night?
Yeah, because the adagietto is scored for the string sections of the orchestra plus a harp.
Yes.
And so. Yeah, for this particular movement, you don't miss anything.
Right.
It doesn't have a brass section, so I think it worked well.
Yeah.
In
so essentially
setting.
the same kind of forces as
Yes.
one would traditionally have in a performance.
A bit reduced, but still in the same timbral qualities.
Yes.
Yeah.
But of course without a conductor now either, because I guess it was Daniel Roland or whoever the first violinist is then leading that work as he did last night. You've had master classes, lessons with a great number of famous pianists, one of whom is someone I admire greatly as a polymath, Sir Stephen Huff.
Yes.
Anything you'd like to share about your time with him?
Stephen is really one of the most inspiring people I've met, and certainly one of the greatest artists I think nowadays. Because apart from a pianist, he's a true Renaissance figure. He composes, he paints, he writes.
He writes so eloquently.
And I think that's incredible. And I'm actually very interested in his music. I play some of his piano sonatas, and he's an absolute inspiration for me.
Excellent. One wonders if he's written much chamber music, and perhaps we'll have the chance to hear it here in some years. In fact, he's also been to Cape Town. Some years before the pandemic, he played a Mozart piano concerto, if I remember correctly, but it's a regret of mine that I missed that performance. You're giving a masterclass tomorrow afternoon. Will you be going in with a particular approach or lessons, tips, tricks you'd like to communicate to the student participants?
Well, first of all, my approach is always the same to teaching. The only difference is that the specifics of a masterclass is that it's a public event, so you can't do the same things you would do in a one-to-one lesson. There has to be an element of, I wouldn't say show,
but drawing the audience in and
absolutely.
Involving them.
Absolutely, because it's a public event, and that's the point of it. The point of it is not to delve into every note and sort of try to repeat every detail endlessly, but really to illuminate all the listeners in the audience in terms of how the work is written, its details, its structure, such things. Yeah.
Yes. How much preparation do you do before the masterclass? Do you know which pieces will be presented to you tomorrow?
I always try to find out what the students are playing. It's very, otherwise it's very scary if you're suddenly presented with something you don't know.
Yes. Then the teacher becomes the student again, I suppose. Emmanuel, we mentioned this is now your third visit to South Africa. You were here for the piano symposium that, of course, Nina Schumann is intimately involved with last year, and then this national tour in which we heard you play the Rachmaninoff Paganini Rhapsody with the orchestra, and now at the Sicmf. You've obviously attended many international festivals, chamber music festivals. Is there anything special or unique you've noticed so far? We're just on the second day of the Sicmf.
First of all, the atmosphere here is incredibly warm and incredibly, how should I put it, nourishing. I mean, everyone is so friendly, and for example, all the people on the faculty, on the artistic faculty, are clearly here to make wonderful music, to have fun, and that's what we should be doing all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, that's absolutely palpable from an audience perspective.
But the fact that I'm pointing it out as something for this festival means that it's not the case for every festival.
Yeah, that's very interesting to hear. Anything else on the program, either your performance-wise or student engagements or interactions that you're particularly looking forward to over the course of the week?
Well, of course, I'm looking forward to my second performance.
Yes.
That's a bit egotistical of me to say. But I'm looking forward to my participation on Tuesday.
Right.
We are doing the second quintet by Dvorak.
Yes, very good.
With a bunch of wonderful people, and I'm looking forward to that because it's my first performance of this piece. I've never done it before, and it's always exciting when you have a personal premiere.
Yes. And anything specific we would listen or should listen out for in that? I mean, Dvorak, such a master of melody, color.
Yeah, one other piece I'm really looking forward to hearing is the piano quintet by Taneyev,
Right.
which is, I think, on tomorrow's program.
Correct. One of
Yes.
Tchaikovsky's most celebrated students.
Yeah, and this is a massive work. It's, I think, close to 45 minutes
Yes.
long, and it's just wonderful, but it's very rarely played.
Right.
Maybe because it's very difficult
And
also
who'll
to
be
play.
playing? Is that Nina playing
Nina
that
Schumann is
tomorrow?
playing the
Excellent.
piano part,
Gosh,
yeah,
so something
yeah,
to look out for.
Yes.
Taneyev's quintet
Yes.
tomorrow, and then Emmanuel on Tuesday evening. Of course, we've got this world premiere, Peter Bezuidenhout on the Monday. How is the rest of your year looking? What happens after Sicmf? You're jetting off, I think, even before the end of the festival.
Yes, unfortunately, I'll miss the last few days of the festival, but that's because I have a solo recital in a little festival in England on the 11th, on the 11th of July. And actually, I'm arriving in London in the morning of the 11th, and I'm playing on the evening.
And what will you be playing in that
Oh,
recital?
it's quite a big program. Mendelssohn Songs Without Words, Schumann Symphonic Etudes, Ravel, Gaspard de la Nuit, and 3 etudes by Marc-André Hamelin.
Fantastic.
Who is one of my idols
Yes.
again, and one of the most inspiring for me musicians.
So presumably you have all that music under your fingers now already, but at what point do you sort of switch into recital mode for that? Or already now are you kind of preparing,
Yeah.
gearing up for that performance?
I'm already thinking about it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. If I start switching my mindset on the morning of the day of the concert, it's not going to be
It's
very
too late.
It's
Yeah.
a bit risky.
Yes. It's a reminder just how many balls in the air a performer
Yes.
must have. You
Yeah.
have to be in the present, but also thinking ahead, planning ahead, getting ready.
There's a lot of multitasking involved.
Yes. Well, as a relatively young pianist who's really, as I mentioned a bit earlier, burst onto the global scene, any advice so far that you would like to share with other young musicians, either who are here at the festival or watching online?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if I have very valuable advice on that matter, because I'm still on the course of my development career-wise. But one thing I really think is important is to follow your thing, to do what you love. For example, I love playing repertoire that's a bit out of the box, and sometimes it's risky with some concert organizers. But I love doing it, so I keep doing it. So this is just an example for something, yeah.
You think that brings a special kind of passion or energy if you feel strongly and you yourself are convinced about the music you're presenting?
Absolutely. Yeah. So one should have a strong voice and to really believe in themselves.
I think that's very fine advice. Thank you. Got some tricky quick-fire questions for you before you
Sure.
go. You have to answer immediately.
That's scary.
And the difficult thing is you have to give a reason for your answer as well. And I've been asking most of my interviewees the same questions so we can compare and contrast at the end. So first up, and probably particularly difficult for you as a pianist, Bach or Brahms?
This is heresy, but I'm gonna say Brahms.
Oh, goodness.
But I love Bach too.
And you have to give a reason.
Yes, well, I'm more inclined to the music of the Romantic Age in general, yeah. And yeah, Brahms sort of speaks closer to me, yeah.
So perhaps I can then take a guess as to your next answer, Mozart or Mendelssohn?
That's harder. I can't answer that one. Sorry.
Fair, I'll let you get away with that. And then lastly, not because the composer shares a name with the great artistic director of this festival, but Schubert or Schumann?
Schumann.
Schumann, really?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Again, I really feel more connected to Schumann and his way of expressing himself.
Right.
Yeah.
His piano
As
music,
simple as that.
his symphonies.
In terms of what I like, it's a very simple thing. I just whatever connects with me instantly or moves me more. That's what I prefer.
Well, thank you for sharing those insights. I find even these fairly simple questions can be quite revealing.
Yes.
So thank you for being game. Emmanuel, very grateful for the chat and to you for joining us now. We're now going to move over to Courtney, who has our roving cam to see what else is going on in the conserve before we head back inside. Thanks again, Emmanuel. Courtney, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 19th Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. As you can see, people are clearing up now. We've just finished interval and we've started to grab this last interview for you guys. And I'm joined here by Orlando of the Illumina Quartet. And you'll be telling us a little bit about their group and the performance and how it was to experience performing here at Stellenbosch.
Right. Hello everyone. Today at 5 p.m. I play together with my quartet Illumina. We are from Latin America. We played a mix of Latin American composers and European composers. It was a great experience playing here. A lot of people after the concert said that they got inspired, and I am really happy to hear. It's my first time in Africa and I am really enjoying the festival so far.
Yes, you should check them out on social media. And last question, what are you looking most forward to about this week?
To learn a lot. I noticed the quality in this festival is very high, and also there are so many people. There are more than 250 people, so it's really nice to get to know the culture and to get to know these special things that people have from here. That this rhythm, this love for music, this passionate energy is so affectionate. So, that's the word, I think. So, I am just here open to learn a lot of things and getting inspired a lot.
Thank you, Orlando. Please stay tuned for the rest of the evening and the rest of this week. You can catch Orlando with the FSO Friday evening and Sunday evening. We'll see you soon. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Courtney. Thanks, Orlando. Oh, gosh, it's so cool to see our young musicians oozing enthusiasm in that way, and all the best for the rest of your time here at the Sicmf. So, ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned earlier that we're now musically, after Schubert and Delius, firmly in the 21st century for music now by the Argentinian composer Osvaldo Golijov and the Finnish composer Olli Mustonen. And so to get us into the right style of mind for the second half of tonight's faculty concert, here is another snippet from last night, the opening minutes of Caroline Shaw's Blueprint, another South African premiere here at the Sicmf. And welcome back. We're inside the Endler Hall for the second half of the second faculty concert for a piece which really seems to have tongues wagging because it's not often we get to hear the Argentinian composer Osvaldo Golijov. And this is his work, Ever Yours, that's scored for 2 quartets. Now, this composer was a student of George Crumb. He's collaborated with many renowned artists and ensembles, including the Kronos Quartet, Yo-Yo Ma, the fabled Mezzo, and Sophie van Otter. And he currently serves as the composer in residence at the College of the Holy Cross in Worcester, in Massachusetts. He also has a long-standing relationship with the director Francis Ford Coppola, and he's written scores for all sorts of films. And his compositions generally are celebrated for their evocative storytelling, rich textures, and profound emotional impact. So this evening sees the South African premiere of Ever Yours, a work inspired by the words of Vincent van Gogh that he used to close the letters to his brother Theo. And this work was commissioned by the Amsterdam String Quartet Biennial and is dedicated to the late Jeff Nuttall, who is violinist for the St. Lawrence Quartet. And Nuttall's ensemble, together with the Telegraph Quartet, premiered this work only 2 years ago in February 2022. And tragically, Nuttall succumbed to cancer in October of that same year, lending a poignancy to this work. And so this is Ever Yours by Osvaldo Golijov, featuring 2 quartets, and you will see the arrangement on the stage. And then that's going to be followed by another very recent work by the Finnish composer, whom I've only just discovered as part of this festival. So thank you, Nina, Olli Mustonen, his toccata for piano, string quartet, and double bass. But first, here come the musicians for Ever Yours by Osvaldo Golijov. We have Daniel Rowland, Madeline Adkins, Andy van Dijk, and Maya Bogdanovic as our first quartet. And in our second quartet, Andrei Baranov, Farida Bakharova, Maya Egasira, and Boris Andrianov as cello. Enjoy! Oh, now that was very cool. So I know some of Osvaldo Golijov's song cycles, but I haven't heard an instrumental work of his, certainly not with that intensity, that focus and concentration from the musicians. Gosh, and all the different styles. This octet, you can see now the way they stand, the formation of the two quartets making up Ever Yours, that piece inspired by the way Vincent van Gogh would sign off letters to his brother, Theo, Ever Yours. And gosh, I think Majo Bogdanovic, our cellist in string quartet number 1, sitting on the left there, now leaving through the door, wins the prize for most eye-catching dress with that burst of color during the work. But wow, what intensity and precision that demanded from the players, that work by Golijov. Well-deserved appreciation from everyone here for this second faculty concert, coming to you live from the Endler Hall, the 19th Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. Our octet of faculty artists there, lapping up the well-deserved appreciation for Ever Yours by Osvaldo Golijov. a piece of music that's only 2 years old, and isn't it awesome that we get to hear that new music here at Stellenbosch? So from an Argentinian composer to a Finnish composer, and one whom perhaps we also don't know as well enough here in South Africa as we should, Olli Mustonen. He was born only in 1967, and yes, again, well-deserved appreciation for our stage crew. But he learned the harpsichord as a youngster, and then the piano. He's a well-known pianist in his own right. He regularly performs at top concert venues, plays concertos, and he also conducts. Olli Mustonen, our next composer this evening, is the co-founder of the Helsinki Festival Orchestra, and his predilection for contrapuntally interwoven compositions of the 20th century, which are based on ideas from the 16th and 17th century, is a key kind of characteristic of his compositional style, and is something we will almost certainly hear in this next work, which has been called a toccata. And of course, that's a title for a flashy, showy piece, especially one from the Baroque era. And so indeed we're expecting some contrapuntality, whatever the word is, contrapuntalness, in this next piece by Mustonen for piano, string quartet and double bass. And we'll be welcoming Nina Schumann again to the piano for this next work, along with Daniel Rowland, Madeline Adkins as violinists, Jennifer Stum viola, and Maya Bogdanovich cello, Marichen Meyer double bass. So how some of those musicians are going to manage the change from the work we've just heard to this new piece, and all the different focus, whether they still have any fibers left on their strings or in their fingers for that matter, remains to be seen and heard. But of course we know what to expect, because they are consummate professionals, consummate musicians. Aren't we lucky to have them here at the Sicmf? And so, yes, a change in forces, as you can see there, but also a change in texture and timbre now. It will be good to hear the piano after all that string playing in the Golijov work. And of course, yes, a stool for the double bass. Marichen will no doubt appreciate that. And a stand, too. Probably a bit much to expect the musicians to know their music off by heart. As we know, rehearsal is always limited for this Sicmf. I mean, rehearsal is always limited for everything, right? One seldom has as much rehearsal time as one would like, but we know many of these musicians, some of whom have just flown into South Africa, into Stellenbosch in the last few days, really don't have much time to bring this music together, which is quite a challenge, especially in chamber music, because it requires the intimacy, the communication, almost, knowing each other so well as to anticipate the slightest moves, gestures. But I guess many of these musicians have been playing for many years. Many of these musicians come back to the Sicmf year after year, and so know each other's styles intimately. Taking turns. Who's going to come out first? Gosh, Nina, in a dress to rival Myers almost. Gosh, well, it seems there was a color memo for this piece that went around. How about that? Daniel Rowland, first violin, and Josh, our page turner, will need to up their game to match the ladies on the stage. But here is the toccata now for piano, string quartet, and double bass by the Finnish composer Olli Mustonen. New music by the Finnish composer Olli Mustonen, his toccata for piano, string quartet and double bass, culminating in that fiendish moto perpetuo, driving the work to its close and capping off the second faculty concert here at the 2024 Sicmf, the 19th edition of this very special festival here in Stellenbosch. And you heard Daniel Rowland and Madeline Adkins violins, Jennifer Stum viola, Maya Bogdanovic cello, Marichen Meyer double bass, and of course our artistic director of this festival, Nina Schumann, piano. And here they come again to acknowledge the audience's appreciation. And I hope that you're also clapping from wherever you may be watching. Let us know in the comments. A very nice touch with visuals to match the musical fireworks we've just heard. And so that's a wrap for the second faculty concert. Time for me to duck outside the hall with the audience. I'll see you just after this. Well, there you have it. Another night of chamber music magic here at the Sicmf 2024. Music there by Schubert, Delius, Osvaldo Golijov, and that fiendish toccata by Oli Mustonen. The Sicmf continues tomorrow on its third day, Sunday. You can catch the final guest ensemble concert at 1 p.m. featuring the Folkwang String Quartet from Essen in Germany with music by Haydn and Shostakovich. And then 3 students, Christoph Joubert, Isaac van der Merwe and Chanda Lupambo, will be joining Emmanuel Ivanov, who was my guest earlier, for a masterclass at 3 p.m. The first student ensemble concert takes place at 5 o'clock, and then at 7, yet another innovation at this year's Sicmf, a discussion led by Lisa Kleinhans on psychological well-being for thriving in new environments, something which is sure to enrich our young and older musicians. And then tomorrow night's faculty concert features another sumptuous musical feast, the piano quintet by Sergei Taneyev, who is one of Tchaikovsky's students, and that will be followed by the Tsigane for Winds by Valerie Coleman. You may remember hearing her name in my interview with Mike Repper last night. She's a very exciting voice in contemporary American music. And then finally, an American in Paris by George Gershwin in an unusual arrangement for brass quintet. So don't miss out. If you're in and around Cape Town, book your spot through web tickets or just turn up here at the Endler Hall. And for those further afield, we'll be bringing the music to you live as usual. So thank you for joining us tonight, and please drop us a line on our social media channels to let us know what tonight's highlight was for you. Don't forget to use the hashtag SICMF2024. More information about this festival, the concerts, the musicians is available on our website. That's sicmf.co.za. And we'll be back just before 8 o'clock again tomorrow evening, live from the Endler. And so until then, and on behalf of our production team, this is John Woodland wishing you good night from the Sicmf.